Full Bloom is brought to you in part by the following. Welcome to Full Bloom, the award-winning show that celebrates life. Here's your host, Zita Christian.
Hi everyone, welcome to Full Bloom. I'm Zita Christian. It is estimated that in the United States there are 60 million people who have an allergy or a sensitivity to gluten or celiac disease. If you happen to be one of them, you definitely want to watch this show. My guest is Christine Reed. She is a baker and specializes in gluten-free and vegan products. And Christine, having discovered fairly recently that I am one of those 60 million with that sensitivity to gluten, I am so very glad that you are here today. Thanks for making the trip.
Thank you for your invitation.
So your company is called Shayna B's and the Pickle.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're in Ashford. So I have to ask right off the bat, what's the significance of the name Shayna B's and the Pickle?
Shayna B's and the Pickle was named after my dogs. I have two labs, and Shayna is my yellow lab, Shayna B, Shayna Bobena.
Shayna Bobena, I like that.
And Dylan is my black lab. I call her Dylan Dill Pickle, the Pickle. So they're both very dear to my heart, and as is the business. So
wonderful.
Yes.
So for people in the audience who might not know a lot about this subject, or even not know a little about the subject, and I was one of those up until a few months ago, what is gluten?
Gluten is a protein that is found in wheat, barley, and rye flours, and also in some processed foods. So that protein in those flours actually wreak havoc on some people's bodies and digestive systems, and their bodies just cannot break down that particular protein.
So they have a reaction, some kind of an allergy type reaction. I know I have a friend of mine who has celiac disease
Yes.
severely, and when she was pregnant she nearly died.
Yes.
Because of all the trauma to her body, and I know for me it affects joints like an inflammation like arthritis, but I understand that some people might lose their hair or have digestive issues and need to be near a bathroom all the time.
It's very common, yes.
So it amazed me when my daughter convinced me, because she's an herbalist and she's been telling me for years, Mom, you have all the symptoms, and I didn't want to have a gluten problem because I knew that meant, to me, it meant a sentence to a disastrous culinary life. And I thought, oh, this is just going to be awful. But she said, please try for just 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, try it. And I did. I couldn't believe the difference. Simply couldn't believe it. Move around, up and down, going up and down the stairs, carrying full baskets of laundry.
Wow.
I mean, no problem at all. No pains in my knees, my elbows, nothing. And then I thought, well, it's not really that. So, I just had a couple pizzas. I had a bunch of stuff a lot of gluten. And a couple days later, it was all back again. All the pain was back again.
Right.
And so I thought, oh no, this is real. This stuff is for real.
Absolutely, and it is the only disease you can control. You can control by diet.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Now I know from what I saw on your website that your products are also vegan. What does that mean?
Vegan means that there's nothing from an animal, meaning no butter, dairy, eggs, honey, nothing that is processed from an animal.
So when I hear that, I think, Christine, forgive me, but you're a baker.
Yes.
And you're not using butter or cream or eggs or honey. And yet I know, because I'm going to have the camera, and I just lift this up. You brought a tray. You brought a tray of some of the most beautiful goodies. We'll see if we can pick those up over here. Beautiful goodies that are from your bakery.
Yes, ma'am.
And Oh, here we go. I don't want it to fall off. But these look just absolutely beautiful. So tell us what we have here.
Well, what we have here is a toasted coconut cake. That is made with a combination of organic brown rice and coconut flours. It's also naturally sweetened with a little homemade applesauce and agave. And then
This chocolate one?
yes, that is
My favorite?
Yes, a coconut chocolate bliss cake. That's made with a organic brown rice flour, organic coconut, and a little organic coconut cream filling.
Okay.
Yes.
And it looks like a biscotti here in the middle.
Yes, that is an vanilla almond biscotti. That's made with blanched almond flour, a little agave, and a gluten-free vanilla, organic vanilla.
And this one here looks like a blonde brownie.
It is a blonde brownie.
Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yep.
Okay.
That's made with garbanzo bean flour.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as garbanzo bean flour. And I understand. I mean, I look at this and I think, okay, so you found a way to get around wheat flour. So you're not dealing with the gluten. But these do contain some kind of sweetener. So these are not diet foods. Let's just make sure that everybody understands that. It's not diet food, right?
Well, there are products that I make that are less sugar, that are made either with agave or maple syrup, which is a slower absorption rate for your body to handle. So people with diabetes probably would tend to do very well with the almond biscotti because that is a nut flour based, so the carbs are none. There's 0 carbs, but it's all protein. It's a protein based snack, so that helps. So that doesn't generate a lot of sugar in their system. It's a very nice snack for a diabetic.
I'm feeling more and more encouraged as
Great.
we go along.
That's
This
wonderful.
is very good. And I understand from something I saw on your website that you have a New York style cheesecake coming soon.
Yes, I do. Yes, a dairy-free
Wonderful.
cheesecake. Yes, I
Wonderful.
do.
And then I saw gingerbread cupcakes and something that you called designer dog granola.
Yes, it's a granola. A lot of people that suffer from either celiac or have a gluten allergy also have a hard time processing oats. So I developed a oat-free granola. So the base of the granola is a quinoa base, which is a gluten-free grain, whole grain, and it's very high in protein, and it just has a lot of calcium. It's just a wonderful grain.
So you've mentioned a couple of the kinds of flours that you use instead of the wheat flour, and you're talking about some alternatives for the sweeteners. What about eggs and what about milk? What do you use instead?
I try to be as natural as possible. The binders that I use are applesauce, bananas, tofu, arrowroot. Those are just a few of the binders that I use for egg replacements.
Instead of the eggs. And what about milk or some kind of cream? Because I'm thinking cheesecake.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I use coconut milk, rice milks, soy milks, those types of.
And your business is growing. I mean,
yes.
Which is wonderful. I'm going to get to some of the business things in a minute.
Okay.
But let me go back to one other thing here. I know that there are some of the alternative flours that you mentioned. I'm aware of some of the others I was not, and I'm aware of some of them because I pick them up every place I can find them, and I've worked with the coconut, the almond, some rice and corn. But are some of those flours better for baking some things than others? Because I sure have made a lot of things that I would never serve to a friend.
I guess it depends on the application. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Coconut flour is very fibrous, so to use that alone, I tried that. I tried that at my beginning stages, but that adds a lot of fiber, which is a good thing for dessert. But used as itself, by itself, it's just not very successful.
So you mix then? You
Yes,
would mix the coconut with something else?
With a combination, yes.
Would you do more than 2 kinds of flours? Would you mix 3, 4, or 5 together? Or?
There are some recipes that call for about 3 or 4 different types. A lot of bread recipes or sweet bread recipes that I'm working on, yes, they do call for.
So are you, is there some gluten-free center for recipes, or that you work from, and do you make your own? Do you adapt? How does that work?
Well, I created all of these on my own, but the web is just an incredible resource. There's a lot of gluten-free recipes on the web.
Well, I have to say, after a couple of the mistakes that I made, and one of them was for a family dinner this past Sunday, which was just so not good, I was very, very discouraged. And when you came into the studio tonight with a container filled with these beautiful looking treats, I mean, suddenly it was that feeling of, oh, this won't be so bad. I mean, this isn't going to be a sentence.
Yes.
So you're a professional, but did you ever have things go wrong?
At the beginning, absolutely.
Like what?
Well, I had to use a couple of fire extinguishers at the beginning.
Oh my gosh!
Just getting used to. There's not a lot of forgiveness in gluten-free baking. So, moisture content, flour content. I mean, it was just all just a learning curve for me. So yes, I did burn many cakes in my day in the very beginning. So these recipes that we're looking at right now, those are 4 years old, 4.5 years old, and they took a little while to get. But I think
I'm so glad you persisted. I really am. Now let's suppose that there's somebody in the audience and they're watching and they've just been told that they do or they might have a gluten issue or celiac disease, and they want to practice, or they want to try making some things on their own. Any recipes that, or any particular type of an item that might be easier than something else for them to try?
Well, cookies are always a nice start. There's a lot of all-purpose flours out there that work fairly well. The bean flours tend to be a little easier to work with.
Okay.
So, and they offer a lot of protein as well, which is another positive
a benefit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I like that. So I do want to talk about the fact that you're doing this as a business, and I also want to mention, because there might be people in the audience going, "Oh no, you went too fast. I want to hear that again." Most of the Full Bloom shows and those of our sister show, Page One, are now on YouTube. We do have our own YouTube channel, so if you go to youtube.com, you can then put the little slash and put ZITA3X3. That's our channel. There actually already was a Zita channel, go figure.
Wow.
But, so there is a Zita, we're on Zita3X3, and you'll find Full Bloom and Page One, and this interview will be up there so that people who missed it when it aired will be able to check it out. And I do want to talk about the business aspect of things. I know that starting a business isn't easy. My daughter started her own 5 years ago, and you opened yours as she did in 2007, the year before the stock market tanked. So tell me a little about the whole idea of starting the business, and I want you to include some mention of what I understand you once referred to as your Red Riding Hood period.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I started the business part-time while I had my day job, so because it was just financially, it was what I had to do at the time. So starting the business, my Red Riding Hood process was I would bake my goods, put them in a basket, and just basically get in my car and drive to health food stores, restaurants, coffee shops, anywhere I thought that my product might help my business. I want to bring joy to people and the fun of food, and it just brings some life to people's problems. And so that's, I figure, okay, if I go to the coffee shops, if I go to the natural food stores, that's where my people would probably tend to go.
So you would go in and say, I'm a baker and I have a licensed kitchen,
Yes.
and here's my product, and
Try. Yes.
And what was the response?
Some they brought me right in. They brought me right in right away.
The smart ones.
Yes. And still others at that time, well, we really don't have a big request for gluten-free right now.
Not yet.
Like, okay.
You will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So since then, yes, I've increased my customer base, and people have called me and requested my products. And
so but you don't have an actual storefront.
correct.
So how would a person find your products?
You can find me at my website. I have a listing of all where I distribute my products in the area.
So we're in Central Connecticut, and I know you're in some of the chain stores.
Yes.
Around here, Big Y, Whole Foods.
Yes.
You're out at Ryan's Deli.
Yes, I am.
That's a landmark, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, and when you place your products in places like that, is it under the store's name, or is it under Shayna B's and the Pickle?
It is my label.
Okay.
Yep. They've been wonderful. They try to put some signage out to let their gluten-free customers know that I'm there. They have I just got on the menu at Ryan's, so now people can go in, have a meal, have a nice dessert at the end of the meal, and just it's a nice finish for them.
Very nice.
But they've been wonderful. They've been wonderful.
So, but people can also then, when you mentioned your website, they could order stuff from
Absolutely.
you online.
Absolutely.
Is your stuff frozen? Are the products frozen, or how do you do that?
Well, they're fresh. They're fresh at farmers markets. I participate in a lot of state farmers markets during the summer. Ryan's Deli, they do have that in the fresh baked as well as the freezer section. Big Y's and the Whole Foods are offering it in the grab and go dessert section. So absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Now I know that sometimes you do demonstrations.
Absolutely.
What do you demonstrate, and what are people interested in?
Well, they're basically interested in the ingredients that I use. They're interested in trying my product, and so I usually bring many a sample. So I love to feed people. That's why I love the business. But I go through all my products, what I use for ingredients, and just kind of talk a little bit about what each product brings to my product.
All right. One of the things I really liked when I saw on your website, you have a tagline for the name of your business, and the tagline was "Good food with a conscience."
Yes.
So tell me about that, because I read some lovely things on there that talk about putting your own personal ethics in action, really walking the talk.
Absolutely. I do own a green business. My kitchen is powered by wind and hydropower. I do as much reusing and recycling as possible. And I also like to source my products locally. In the summertime, I use many local produce, apples, squash, and I use the local tofu from the bridge down in Middletown. So I try to use as many local ingredients as possible. I also, all my packaging is either from a 100% recycled product or compostable. So.
And I'm guessing that there had to be some efforts made to
Absolutely.
to do all that, because it would not be necessarily the easiest way to do things.
absolutely. It's not, and it costs a little extra money as well.
I
But
bet
that was
I
worth
bet
it.
it does.
That was worth it to me.
bet
It
it
was
does.
worth it.
So, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I see myself growing the business, creating more jobs, and just maybe opening a little restaurant at some point. But just keep the bakery going and creating jobs. Absolutely.
So, Christine, well, let me just mention too, for the sake of those in the audience who might just be joining us, this is Full Bloom, and my guest is Christine Reed. She is a gluten-free and vegan baker. Desserts, wonderful, delicious desserts from Ashford, Connecticut, and her products can be found at many of the major chain stores and restaurants and coffee shops and health food stores around the state. And I'm personally just so grateful that you've come up with something like this. So I want to circle back to what we talked about at the very beginning, the whole idea of there being, for many people, myself included, my daughter and several very, very close friends, a problem with gluten. In fact, a friend, the mother of a very close friend of mine, actually was diagnosed with stomach cancer and went to the, I believe it was the Mayo Clinic. They did a lot of research and they said, no, she did not have stomach cancer. She had celiac disease. So talk, if you would, a little bit about what's happening in the health world in terms of the awareness and sometimes the misdiagnosis of the gluten allergy or sensitivity and celiac disease.
Well, I think it's becoming more apparent to physicians. I think they're becoming more aware of the symptoms. It could be anyway as much as just irritability, and then it could be migraines. So I think
Migraines?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. So we live in a country that has this giant wheat belt in the middle of the country. And then I think about, my grandparents, big homesteaders out in South Dakota. And you go out there and sometimes you just can't see anything but wheat.
Right.
So why is it, is the gluten intolerance and the celiac disease something new to our systems and our culture? Or was this always a problem, or has something happened to our wheat and rye and barley?
I think it's a combination, actually. I think it's always been there, but I think it's a lot has to do with how we process the foods as well. Wheat is just a harsh grain anyway. It just rips up the ground as well. So I think it's a combination, just the processed foods, our makeup, and I do think it's always been there, but I think it's becoming just more, our physicians are becoming more aware of how to diagnose it.
You just said a word I do want to follow up on: processed foods. Because one of the things that my daughter pointed out to me was how gluten can be in so many products that are not what I immediately think of as any kind of bread or pasta, but many, many other things. Could you talk a little bit about how it's hidden in some other products?
Sure. It's in a lot of processed foods. Tofuti, they're gluten-free.
Tofuti.
It's like a cream cheese.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that is a gluten-free item, but it's something, I'm trying to think what you could look for. Hidden in the ingredients would be anything that has soy sauce. You have to be careful of the sauces, definitely.
So what do? Do you have to get your magnifying glass and read every little label?
Pretty much, yeah. If it is gluten-free, it should have a label on there. Absolutely.
I see more and more of that in the stores now.
Yes.
I see stores having sections that have gluten-free products, and seeing regular products. Products in the regular section of the store that are specifically marked gluten-free. And I have to tell you, a friend of mine who used to be a caterer, She made a lasagna with spinach and ricotta and pesto.
Okay.
And it was a brown rice pasta, the big fat, beautifully curly lasagna noodles. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. So is there some kind of, I say trick, and maybe that's the wrong word, but a different method of cooking when you're using gluten-free pastas, or if you're making a gluten-free bread? Like usually, in my old days, I hit that oven 350 and I got that glass pan maybe 325, and I could just tell by looking at it, you press your finger, yeah, it springs back, yeah, we're done.
Right.
But how do you do it? How do you do it when you're working with gluten-free products? Do you use the same pans?
I do.
Okay.
I have my own. I have my own gluten-free pans. That's for sure. But it's all in the recipe actually, and it's, gluten-free baking, as I mentioned, is not very forgiving. So you have to really experiment.
Do most of them take a little longer than the old wheat recipe, or shorter, or different temperature, or are they all? Is it all different?
It is all different depending on what you do.
Oh, ouch!
Yes, it is.
Well, what's a shelf life for a gluten-free? Let's say some. Well, I'm trying to think of an example. I got some bread the other day, and it was in the freezer. And on the packaging, it said to keep it in the freezer because if you let it thaw out, that gluten-free products dry so quickly. So what is that all about? And is it best to keep everything in the freezer until you're ready to use it?
I guess it depends on how they make it, and the products that go into it. My shelf life, I can talk about my products only.
Okay.
But my shelf life in the freezer, it depends on the coconut oil that I use. It's a natural preservative. You have to be careful for preservatives. Back to your other question.
Yes.
That's how you could, you have to be very, very careful with that. So the natural preservative that I use for the coconut cakes is the coconut oil, and it's also used in the blonde brownie, the Wendy blonde brownies. So
some products will have some kind of a preservative.
Yes.
And some don't.
Right.
Oh, I see.
So my products do not have that. So shelf life is probably about a week to 10 days.
Oh, I can't imagine them lasting that long.
But freezing them actually helps. Absolutely. I mean, that would help any product actually.
Okay.
So, but,
I should clarify when I say about lasting that long, I just mean because they're so delicious. I can't imagine people resisting them for that long. So, Christine, I have to say, not only was this information very valuable, and I'm very glad that you shared it with us, and thank you specifically for conveying the information at a level that those of us who are so new to this will understand. And I think most of all for the fact that you make these products, it's encouraging. It doesn't feel like, oh, somebody gets a diagnosis of having gluten intolerance and all of a sudden, the world is over. So thank you very, very much for sharing this and for bringing these lovely desserts. I know the crew is going to enjoy them very much afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you also to my FB crew. And I say this every week, and I mean it sincerely. I do know the value of time. And I thank you once again for sharing your evening with me. Bye-bye.
Full Bloom is brought to you in part by the following: